I homeschool. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I also kind of run a little bit of a homestead, just kind of a garden and stuff like that.
Were there any like particular incidents to be like, all right, I'm done with the public school system. Let's keep it in-house.
Yeah, so bullying was a big thing. There was an incident where they forced him on a bus he wasn't supposed to be on. He was lost for an hour.
Oh.
But what's it like public going homeschool? What were some of the fees that go into homeschooling? And then where did you save on going to homeschooling, if you did?
So in homeschooling, there's a lot of different options out there, especially for Illinois specifically, because
What's up, everybody? I'm James.
I'm Marcellus.
And welcome to another episode of Issa Kickback.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, this week we're kicking it with Kristin. Yeah, and she's going to put us on game with the homeschool process and just what goes into that and homesteading. We talked about it earlier in the season, in the reboot, and so it's cool to have someone who lives it with us. But as y'all know,
it's time.
It's time. We get started with our vibe check, which kind of sets the tone for the episode, and I think I'm going to take that one this time.
It's all you, buddy.
All right, so the illusion of comparison, thinking someone else's path to find your own. Your journey is unique, and no two souls walk the same road.
I did it.
Yeah.
That's very true, to be honest.
Yeah. So, Kristin, kind of when you hear that, what kind of comes to mind?
So I think for me, just kind of going through the things that I've gone through in just this day and age that we live in, it's really easy to compare your journey to somebody else's. Mm-hmm. Even like if you've come from the same place, just thinking like they're so much further than me. Especially with social media, people put snippets of their life instead of the whole picture.
Yeah.
And with me being a stay-at-home mom, I'm constantly, checking my phone and on Facebook and seeing these people do these things, or just like in homeschooling, how their room looks, and thinking, why am I not there? Or why am I not doing these things? Or, I'm sitting at home with kids and people are out living their life. But just kind of reflecting on the things that you have and realizing that not everybody is being fully transparent about everything they have going on.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
It's really important in this day and age, especially, I think.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%. Like, no one's keeping on 100 these days. Everyone is living lives on Instagram while probably owing 2 months in rent type shit. So it's like, I agree completely. Even at like a job setting, just because we got the same job, don't mean you could do what I can do.
Right.
Word.
I could get away with shit. You can't get away with shit. You know what I mean? Like, just don't walk how I walk. I got a little swag to my step. You don't got that.
That's one way to put it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I fuck with it.
So it's like, so, all right. Don't do what I do. Two people are different, even in the same room. Shit.
Yeah. Comparison is the thief of joy. In all instances. So when I think we've all fallen victim to the fact of like, damn, look what he's doing and I can't, you know? So for me, I used to feel that way, but now it's kind of like realizing I'm adult and I can do almost anything I set my mind to,
Off topic. Did you guys ever like catch yourself becoming an adult like, yeah, he's doing that, but I can do that too, or she's doing that, but like, I could easily do the same thing. Like, just because they're at this place today, I can go there tomorrow if I really want to.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, like, in the beginning, I became a mom young. And so I felt really, I don't want to say hindered, because I really love being a mom. And I think that it made me grow up in ways that I really needed to. But I think once I got out of that mindset, especially as my kids got older and being like, oh, wait, I can do that. Like, just because I'm a mom doesn't mean I can't do these things that I want. Maybe it's a little more difficult, but I can still do it.
Yeah.
Facts. No, you good. That was a great question, because it is like a moment where it's like, oh, I could actually like, I could go do that shit too. Like, why haven't I?
Switch from the kid mindset to the adult mindset. Like, oh, I'm grown.
I don't have to ask anybody.
Yeah.
Like, I can leave right now. Like,
right now. I don't have to stay around family too long. Like, I'm out of here.
I got my own car keys. Live. Yeah. Sorry, right. My mind just went to a place. I was like, I remember that moment. Like, nigga, I'm leaving.
All right, so
sorry, let's get the show started. My fault.
All right, so let's get into it. So, Kristin, we invited you here to kind of educate us about the homeschooling and the homestead, things like that. So, if you want to kind of tell the people who you are, that would be great.
Yeah. So my name's Kristin, and I'm 29, mother of 2, and I homeschool. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I also kind of run a little bit of a homestead, just kind of a garden and stuff like that.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of basically what I'm doing these days. Who I am.
Yeah. That's
real boss shit.
No, for I don't think people understand what goes into first having a garden and being a mom.
Yeah.
First off, keeping your kids all damn day.
Yeah.
Oh, you say you got 2, right?
Yes.
Yeah, shit. Get out. I'm joking. But, no, that's awesome, for real.
So what made you want to kind of pivot to this lifestyle?
Originally, this was a lifestyle that I not only never thought I'd be living, but did not want to live. I really like city life, just being close to everything. Growing up, I had a lot of friend groups. It was a lot of parties.
Yeah.
I just liked fast life. And then once I had kids, I kind of tried to hold on to that a little bit, but it just wasn't working and I didn't enjoy it. I was just tired. Honestly, I was tired. My partner at the time, so my kid's dad, he really got into it more so than me. And I was very reluctant at first. I tried to fight it a little bit. I was like, I do not want to be living yeehaw life. That's not what I signed up for.
I respect the honesty.
Yeah. It just seemed too, like, slow living just wasn't where I was at the time.
For sure.
But over time, the more I got involved, the more I enjoyed it. And then it was like one day I woke up and this was my life. And I was like, oh, this is where I want to be. I can't imagine doing anything else. It's so quiet. It's so peaceful.
Yeah.
I was enjoying it way more. It was a lot better for my mental health. And I felt like I got way more bonding time with my kids.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was something that I just kind of fell into over time, but I was very reluctant at first.
Yeah. No, I feel that.
I mean, sure.
As somebody who used to rip and run, I feel that.
Yep.
But because now I can't wait to come home.
Yeah. I love being home.
Yeah.
Love being home.
I'm 50-50, but
that's on par for you, bro.
yeah, that's what I'm you know me.
I think we all kind of slow down eventually, whether we want to or not, and then you realize, like, oh, this is kind of nice.
I'll definitely slow down compared to my younger days, but I'm still thinking. But what there, like, so making the switch to homeschool, were there any like particular incidents to be like, all right, I'm done with the public school system. Let's keep it in house.
Yeah, so I think when it started, it was during the pandemic. So it was kind of like a forced thing. It was something that we wanted to homeschool eventually, but we didn't have any solid plans or timeline or anything. But then the pandemic hit, and we were like, okay, this is the time now. Like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this. Yeah. And so at first we did the online stuff where he had a teacher, because my youngest wasn't school age yet. So it was just my oldest. He was, I think, in 1st grade. And we did the online thing and it just was not working. He was miserable. I was miserable. We don't live in town. We live kind of out by the airport. So our connection wasn't super great.
Way out there. Damn.
Yeah. And so it just was not working. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to homeschool. But I had very little knowledge on what that looked like. And so we did an online program because I felt like it'd be less jarring for him. There just wasn't a teacher, but everything was online. It just kind of walked him through things. All the information was online. That wasn't working either. Come to find out later on, he had inattentive type ADHD. So anything sitting there staring at a screen for that amount of time, he was not retaining anything.
Yeah.
I was getting frustrated. He was getting frustrated. And so, yeah, we ended up doing some like book work, but I was still very like new to the whole thing. Didn't know what all was out there. Didn't even really know the laws surrounding it.
Yeah.
But then he went back to public school and my daughter went to public school and we had a lot of issues. And so bullying was a big thing. There was an incident where they forced him on a bus he wasn't supposed to be on. He was lost for an hour. I went to the school to try to hold them accountable, and that went very badly. And so I said, I'm done. We're just going to have to homeschool. I'm going to have to look into it. It's going to have to be structured. And so that started a whole new journey for me where I was looking up laws. I was looking at, how I wanted this to look. And so now we homeschool again. I homeschool both kids this time, which is very different than the first time, but it works for us now. So
damn, I would have lawyered up so quick.
There were just so many emotions.
Yeah.
Like looking back, I wish I would have made a police report. I wish I would have went to the Board of Education and advocated more, but I was just so upset and so angry. And my main goal at that point was just keeping my kids safe.
Yeah.
Word.
At that point, it was just, I need to get him home,
That's just so many emotions in you said an hour? Like
an hour.
That's a long time.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
I'm saying not knowing where your kid is.
I'm on my Liam Neeson after 20 minutes. Like
I didn't even know that it had been an hour until the hour had already passed. Because he was supposed to be at choir. He was supposed to be at after school choir. And so his dad came to get him when we would normally get him.
Yeah.
And he showed up and the choir teacher said he never came. And so he called me in a panic. My daughter had been in the ER the night before. She was very sick. And so I was at home with our sick daughter, and he calls me in a panic, and he's like, they don't have him. We have no idea where he's at. That hour since he had gotten out of school had already came and went.
Because he's
so thankfully, we've had so many discussions with him that we told him, just stay where you're at. Stay at the bus stop. If you ever get dropped off there and we're not there or something happens, just stay there. And he did. And he stayed there and he hid in the slide. It was there's a little park there.
Yeah.
And so he was 8 years old at the time, didn't have a way to contact anybody, and he just hid in the slide until one of us showed up.
Props to him to knowing what you guys had taught him.
Yeah. I was
any other kid
terrified.
probably wander off.
Yeah, he was like, no, my mom and dad told me to stay here. I'm going to hide in the slide so nobody comes and gets me. But when I see them, he ran out and he was like, here I am. And he was fine. But so many things could have happened in that hour.
Goodness, man, I'm sitting here thinking.
My mind's racing.
Like the choir teacher. We gotta do
she should have called me when he did show up.
And she thought, she didn't even know he was at school. She thought he hadn't been there all day.
Wow.
So she didn't even think anything was wrong. I had messaged her that night saying hey, did you know that he was when he didn't show up, why did nobody notify me? And she's like, I thought he wasn't there at all today. Nobody told me anything.
Yeah.
So she was just as concerned. But when I went to the administration, because I called in everybody higher up, I went in the next morning, ready to box.
Guns blazing.
I was ready. And I went in, nobody wanted to take responsibility. They told me it was a sub. I was like, I want to make a report on the sub then. They told me I couldn't for whatever reason, because the subs, I guess, are not employed directly through them. They're employed through an agency.
Who they employed to?
I was just so mad that I was like, well, somebody's going to have to do something. And they denied me anything. And so I was like, well, then he's not coming back.
Yeah.
And he didn't go back after that. That was the last day he went to public school.
That would do it for me.
Yeah.
That would do it for me.
I'm with you.
Yeah, no one's being accountable for it. Just say y'all fucked up. I'm not trying to lawyer up. I just need y'all to hold yourselves.
Yeah.
Well,
and they try to put it on him. I think that's what really pissed me off was they were like, well, why didn't you advocate for yourself? And he was like, I did. I told him I wasn't supposed to be on the bus and I had no way to contact my parents. And she was like, well, then you should have refused to go. I'm like, he's 8. What do you mean? If an adult that is responsible for him at that time is telling him he needs to do something, I would expect my kid to respect that adult and do what he's told. But what was he supposed to do?
Yeah. No, he's 8.
He's 8.
He's just trying to
for real. Yeah. I'm not supposed to be on this bus. No, get on the bus. I'm not to get on the bus.
All right.
Yeah, he's going to do what he's told, which, I love him for it. I love that he was like, okay, this adult that is supposed to be responsible for me is telling me to do something, and I've already advocated for myself. They're not listening, so I have to respect them, and I have to do what they're saying.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's like, damn, I wish he would have put up more of a fight, because so many things could have happened in that hour. It's it was a lose-lose for him.
Yeah. No, it was.
Yeah.
There was no winning for him in that situation.
Yeah.
So what was Yeah, sorry, I'm like riled up right now. I'm like, shit, what petition I gotta sign? Goddamn it! But like, what was that transition process like? It obviously wasn't an overnight thing where it's like, okay, next day you're homeschool.
Yeah. So for us, when that happened, it was towards the end of the year. I think he only had like a month left.
Oh, okay.
And so we just kind of did random paperwork. I still had a lot of stuff saved up from the last time we had homeschooled, just to kind of, if my kids ever were like just bored and need a filler. I had already did so much work getting that stuff together that it seemed like a waste to throw it away.
For sure.
So we just did like learning stuff, like random stuff. It probably had nothing to do with what he was already learning, but at least he was learning something.
Yeah.
And then I just spent that summer before the next grade just getting everything together.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really a big transition phase for him. Any different than what another kid would experience going to public school. Like he had the summer break, and then when school started again, we were homeschooling. So
what was it like telling him and your daughter, like, hey, we're staying home?
So for us, for our family, in anything that directly impacts my children is a discussion altogether.
That's good.
So there was nothing that we told him specifically. It was a family discussion where we said, this is what we're thinking. How do you feel about it? What do you want this to look like? I want my kids to feel like they have a say in their education.
Absolutely.
I want them to feel like, because at the end of the day, this is going to affect them the most.
Yeah.
This impacts them the most. This is their education. This is their lives. And I wanted them to, one, because I don't want them to grow up and resent me and feel like they didn't get a say.
Yeah.
But also I feel like I wanted them involved. I wanted them to add what they felt worked best for them because this is their learning. And if something wasn't going to work for them, I wanted to know because then I need to shift how I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Right.
So for our family, in anything, like I said, that they do, it's going to be a together discussion. We're going to come to a conclusion together as a family. I'm not just going to tell them what's going to happen. They're going to have a say and a participation.
I think that's so dope because I think when I was a kid, I felt like I didn't have a voice.
Yeah.
And me as a parent now, I give my daughter that voice.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important to listen because people write off kids like kids don't know what.
Yeah.
And I think that's outrageous because kids know what they're doing.
Well, kids are people. They have feelings. They have thoughts. Just because they're young doesn't mean they don't have those things.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it might not make sense to you right now, but it makes perfect sense to them.
Yeah.
And so I really do respect that you let them speak and have a say on their lives. Like,
no, that's awesome.
Yeah. I'm sure you'll run into those moments where okay, I have to be the parent and like.
Yeah.
But I think that's dope that that's even on the table because it wasn't on the table for me. So I don't know.
I think for a lot of us, it wasn't. And I think that's why it was so important for me to offer that to them. And also, I just couldn't see a reason not to. Like, these are my children. If my goal is really to keep them safe and happy, then why am I not hearing them? Why am I not listening to them and letting them have some sort of autonomy over what's going on in their lives, So, yeah, it just made the most sense to me.
That's a nice word, autonomy.
So what's the financial situation like? Because public school versus private school is always a conversation, but what's it like public going homeschool? What were some of the fees that go into homeschooling? And then where did you save on going to homeschooling, if you did?
So I think that depends on the path that you take. So in homeschooling, there's a lot of different options out there, especially for Illinois specifically, because there's not really any strict guidelines for us.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of places have like approved programs that they have to use, but for Illinois, we don't have that. And so for me, I chose where we did, because my kids and the way that they learn, I chose like book/paperwork.
Okay.
And so there's definitely online programs that cost monthly or yearly. I didn't do that. So the cost for me is very, very low. There's a lot of things that I invested in right off the bat. So like a laminator, a nice printer, ink, of course, things like that. I also got like a thing that I can turn papers into like a spiral bound book.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
So those were all things that were up front. And I think roughly that costed me altogether like $500.
Oh, shit.
But that's going to last me years and years and years as long as I take care of those things. But other than that, I mean, from day to day or like monthly or yearly, I pay for paper and the spiral things that I use for the books and things for the laminators, and maybe some things every now and then, like learning tools or games and stuff. But I have a really great community of people that we either pass things down, or I have my kid plays basketball with a child that their parent works at the school, and the teachers kind of have like an annual thing where they get rid of like their learning tools or things they don't use anymore. And she's given those to me for free.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I've gotten a lot of things that way, or just like thrifting.
Yeah.
So I find ways to cut costs,
Yeah.
definitely. But it's very cheap. If you put in the work and invest early on, the cost is essentially nothing.
Yeah.
Really.
So since you don't have a crew program or like a guideline to follow, how do you pick the subjects to teach your kids, like math and science or reading, writing?
Right. So for me, I'm a little extra in this sense. So what I do is, I mean, you can definitely find things that are already created out there for grade levels, depending on your state. But for me, I go to the state website and see what so they actually have it all listed there for each grade level, what they're going to be learning, the topics, and what they kind of expect of them during that grade level, I guess.
Okay.
And I go and I print all of that out, and I kind of tweak things just because for my kids, I want them, like for history, for example, I want them to learn the true history.
Yeah.
Not the whitewashed version.
There we go.
Oof.
All right.
And so I kind of tweak them a little bit, but just to kind of get a rubric of what they're going to be learning, like division or exponents or, you know, those types of things. And then I go online and I search for every single thing on Teacher Pay Teacher, which is a great resource for anybody looking to homeschool or just getting paperwork to keep your kids busy, really.
Yeah.
And so I go on there and I find worksheets for every single topic. And I find videos for things that correlate because I don't know everything. And sometimes I'm teaching something I don't know nothing about.
Yeah, learning with them, yeah.
Yeah, and so I'll find videos on YouTube and I get, you know, worksheets that match up for that. And then I create workbooks. I'll sit and I create a curriculum for the entire year.
And you create it yourself?
Yes.
All right now.
Yeah. So based off all those topics, I create a timeline and a curriculum for the entire year. I have worksheets and videos that match that.
Yeah.
And then we go day by day and I have everything mapped out for the day, including breaks. So I give my kids breaks, kind of like, it won't always be like at the same time, like spring break. My kids don't get that until next month, but public school kids are getting it this month, I think.
Yeah.
Come on.
But it's all mapped out like that.
Yeah.
So they're learning what public school kids would be learning in their grade level. So they're not falling behind. If anything, they have a chance to get ahead. So if I feel they're already comfortable with a subject, I'll go ahead and move up.
Okay. That was my next.
Yeah.
I think that's dope.
So if my kids are already comfortable with a topic, or I feel like they've already had enough practice, we'll go ahead and move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And so they have a chance to get ahead, but they also have a chance if they're struggling in an area, we can spend more time on that. So if it's something I notice that my kids don't have as much, they're not as comfortable with it as maybe some other kids are, then I'll spend extra time or we'll find new ways to learn about that topic. But yeah, so I'm very extra in that way because I know not everybody that homeschools is, you know, going and getting the curriculum online and then printing it out and finding all the worksheets one by one and then printing them all out and organizing them and turning them into books like I'm doing. But I enjoy that part of it.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like I'm involved and I have a say and I have control over it.
And play off in the long run.
No, because the kids will see how organized you are. And I think that's one thing I do take away from my dad and my stepmom. Excuse the mess now. But like when I left for college, I was clean. Yeah. In a sense of like, okay, my laundry's in the closet. I gotta, I clean up after myself. I don't leave plates and shit around. Like, and it was, I hated doing chores. Yeah. But it was like, once you're on your own, it's like, oh, okay, that's why I did the chores.
Right.
So I think so. They're gonna see how organized you are, and hopefully that sticks with them.
And I hope to create like healthy habits and that, like, just showing them, because I didn't necessarily have that growing up, and also just showing them they get to see how much care and love that I'm putting into their education. It's not just their mom. Not that there's anything wrong with picking a program that's already made, but just showing them that I was really invested in their education and spending this time with them and teaching them. It's not just, oh, mom's grabbing random worksheets and trying to teach me. Like, mom really cares about what I'm learning, and she's putting in the effort and the love and the time, because I'll be up at midnight, like, worksheets all over the floor, putting them together and making books out of them. And
them seeing that will make them care more too. So
I hope so. That's the goal.
For sure.
So with you being in the homeschool setting, and you say everything's online and it kind of maps it out, do you think it prepares them for college in a sense? Like, if they were to choose to go to school after?
I think it can, but I think right now that's not really my focus, because they're so young and I don't know what the future looks like. And also I don't necessarily push college on my kids. They know it's an option. Oh. They know that I would support them, obviously 100% if that's what they chose. But I feel also that trade jobs are important. I feel that art is important. I feel like athletics are important. And so whatever, as long as they're giving something their all and they're able to take care of themselves, I'm going to be there for whatever. So I think once we get closer to high school age, that's something that I'll discuss with them and prepare them for. But right now, I think that's just not really where my head's at. They're so young.
Yeah.
And there's so much opportunity out there for them that I want them to know that all of it is an option for them.
Yeah. Oh, respect.
Yeah. So with them being so young and being in homeschool and it's just them two, how do you incorporate like a social life? Because kids need to have a recess with other kids, or need to have lunch time in a lunchroom with other kids to social and bond with other children. How do you incorporate that with your kids?
So that was probably the biggest concern among not only me and their dad, but just in general. When we told people that we were homeschooling, everybody's like, what about their social life?
Right.
And we keep our kids pretty busy. So they're in sports. So both my kids are in jiu-jitsu, and they do that multiple times a week, and they have really great friend groups there. And then my son is also in basketball. So there's a lot of opportunity there for him to make friendships and have a social life. My son also has a phone now, which started off as just a safety thing.
For obvious reasons.
Yes. Yeah. It was right after that he got that phone.
For sure. For sure.
So that was definitely up there. But now that he's getting older, so he'll be 11 this year.
Yeah.
And back in the day, I definitely would not have given my 10-year-old a phone. But with him being homeschooled and just the times that we live in, it's heavily monitored. But it's important for his connection to his friends. But it's definitely not at the level of like a recess or, like a lunchroom. It's definitely a concern that I still think about sometimes. But if you really think about it like a classroom setting, you really don't get to have a lot of interaction with people because you're told to sit there and be quiet and learn.
Yeah. You're not supposed to.
Yeah. I mean, they're teaching you not to, really.
Yeah.
And so with my kids, they have more freedom in that aspect where, like, on a Tuesday afternoon, we can go to the park or we can go and do things and interact with people where they wouldn't be getting that in a classroom setting. Yeah, sure, it's hard trying to find the balance because, there's definitely times where kids are getting more interaction socially than my kids are, but they also have more opportunity to have social interaction, I guess, outside of that. So it's something that we're working on.
Yeah.
Always. And I feel like it's something, even if they go back to public school, it's something that I'm always working towards, just finding connections for them.
Yeah, and the right ones.
Real
connections. For sure.
So with some of the subjects in our advertising world, especially today's society, do you speak about politics with your kids? Like, what do we call it, U.S. history or U.S. government type shit? Like, Can you speak on that? I know they're young, but...
Yeah. So my youngest, not so much. It's more so like the basics of government and the branches and things like that.
Right.
With my oldest, he has a very strong sense of justice. And he loves human rights topics. It's honestly the one thing that he... Yes.
Oh, shit.
So it's like the one thing that he'll retain more so than anything when it comes to history subjects. And I love that about him.
Yeah.
And so if he asks, I answer. I try to not sway my kids one way or another, but they are very aware of where I stand.
Yeah.
And so recently, with how things are now and the sitting president now, for example, I tried to sit with them and have them watch the inauguration just for educational purposes. And, you know, this is what it is. This is what happens. I had to turn that shit off. I mean, it was just so hateful that like the example that's being set right now when it comes to politics is so dangerous and so toxic that I make my kids aware, but to an extent, just age appropriate.
Right.
But my son, I mean, like I said, he has this strong sense of justice and he has questions. A lot of them I can't answer just because it doesn't make sense to me, but I definitely leave that door open for them.
Yeah.
And we definitely talk about it and I answer their questions as honestly as I can. I try to keep my opinion out of it a lot of the time, but I'm not going to lie to them either.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I try to keep it straightforward, but we definitely talk about it. But with my youngest, she's still very like just learning what the concept of a president is and what that entails and what government is and things like that. But with my son, he's definitely in a way more advanced way of thinking and has way more complex questions about it. So
because of that, do you see him kind of like exploring that more further as he gets older?
Yeah, I definitely. So I mean, I like to consider myself an ally. And so I'm very loud in how I feel about human rights issues. And he gravitates towards that. Right. And I feel like it's something that we kind of bond over. We have a lot of similar feelings and a lot of similar thoughts. And the older he gets, the more he gets involved. Mm-hmm. And just like with science, I mean, I go at homeschooling with a secular point of view. And what that means is just that there's religious way of thinking and like a religious curriculum that's out there for homeschoolers, and there's just science-based. And so I go science-based. Not that religion is off the table. They can explore that. I just want them to have an educated viewpoint on it. I don't want them to just pick something because it's what their mom believes in or what their friend believes in or it's what they're told they should believe in. I go from just secular point of view and try to keep it not biased or, you know, an unbiased way of thinking. And I follow their lead, really. And when it comes to their education, when it comes to history, when it comes to science, when it comes to really any topic, I try to follow their lead. And I just answer things honestly.
I love that. That's awesome.
So is it when you're in this role as their teacher, do you have to wear a mask as a teacher? Or are you still, how have they adjusted to that?
So for me personally, I know that there are some homeschoolers that try to have a separation, but for me, my job as their mother is to be a teacher, even outside of homeschool. That's my job.
Yeah.
You know, so for us, it just flows, you know, like I try to keep it kind of laid back. There is some structure there, but I'm not super strict on like, okay, this is school time. You can only be talking about school, only doing school. I try to keep that open line of communication with them where if they have questions, they can ask me if we need to talk about if something's on their mind that maybe isn't related to what they're doing, or if they need a break, they just feel overwhelmed with the schooling that they've had that day, that they can come to me. So for me, it's just, I'm always their mom, which means I'm always their teacher.
Word.
No.
Yeah, no,
I'm fucking with that.
Yeah,
I'm fucking with that.
She had I had the point in the squinty. I was like, yeah.
So since at least your son had a little mixture of both public and homeschool, what are the pros and cons, if any, between the two?
So I think the pros are definitely that with homeschooling, you get to go at the child's pace. Yeah. Like I said, if they need to jump ahead or if they need more time on something, they have that freedom to do so.
Right.
Also, just like with spending time with them, I feel like kids that are in public school, they don't get a lot of home time. Life is so busy and so fast.
Yeah.
And with homeschooling, the pro is definitely that I get to spend way more time raising my children.
Yeah.
And I know that's such a luxury and such a privilege that I get to have, because not everybody gets to have that.
Right.
But there's a con in that for me, not for them, that I don't really know who I am outside of being a mother.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have time to myself. And although I am so grateful, and I don't want to sound ungrateful ever for the time that I do get to spend with them,
For sure.
I don't get a lot of time with Kristin. I'm always with my kids. You know, people get that break when their kids are at school to have a job or to go to places or to go to doctor's appointments. I don't have that. My kids come with me everywhere because I always have my kids.
Yeah.
There's a pro in safety. You know, we don't have to practice school shooter drills. We don't have to worry about bullying. We don't have to have those types of fears in the back of our heads because my kids are home.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely a pro. For my family, I don't see a lot of cons with homeschooling. I don't, other than the one for me, but I just consider that a sacrifice I make as their mom.
Yeah.
You know, it's compared to the cons of public school.
Yeah.
I mean, that's nothing. So,
yeah. I've always, they had my daughter with a helper at school. Right. And her test score, she's like in the 49th percentile for reading. Now, my daughter's shy.
Yeah.
So she's not going to read in front of the class. She's not going to do all these things. Well, I guess they took testing and she was in the 80th percentile.
Damn.
Yeah. Actually.
That's a good job.
Yeah, her teacher was like, I don't know why she has a helper. I think she was just nervous to talk. And I was like, we could have told you.
Right.
We could have told you that if we knew that was what's going on.
Yeah, that's one thing I hate about public school is the testing, because I don't feel like it's always super reflective of where the child truly is at, just because of the circumstances of the testing. But I feel like in those types of circumstances, it's good because it shows like she does know what she's doing. She doesn't necessarily need the helper, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it was just that she's shy and every kid's different.
Yeah.
But that's definitely a con for homeschooling, is there's programs that public school offers that I can't offer my kids. So my son needed a speech therapist because of the way he says his R's. Both my kids do it. I don't know what, and they both say their R's the same way. So I don't know if it's something I'm doing or what, but now I can try, but I don't have the education to be able to teach them the proper tools for things like that. Or my son was in reading recovery and I think in a math program at one point. I'd like to think that I'm kind of filling those gaps in a way because he has the one-on-one with me, whereas he wasn't getting that before and needed those types of programs. But there are some things out there that I don't have the skill set for. And there's things that maybe I wouldn't even notice as an issue, like my kids saying their R's differently. For one, they're my kids, so I don't even clock that they're saying their R's weird if they're always saying it that way, and both my kids are doing it. But also, like, I don't know how to correct speech. You know, so, and I wouldn't even consider that a big deal. Like, I would have just contributed that to their ages.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely a con about homeschooling, that I've noticed that if my kids were to need some sort of intervention, I, one, probably wouldn't even pick up on it until maybe it's too late. And two, I wouldn't necessarily know how to help them through that. And I don't know what is all out there outside of public school for those resources.
That would be tough. I had speech help.
Oh, really?
Yeah, cause I used to say my S is fucked up. So, you know, shit like that. So that is a great point. I wonder. I mean, so how did you go about that then? So,
my son did the speech therapy, but he still says his R's the same way. And so I don't even think it really did anything, but also I don't think it's hindering him in any way. You know what I mean? I don't know, maybe, but like I said, both my kids say their R's that way. So it's like, I don't know. We know what they're saying. Everybody else knows what they're saying. It's not like it's hindering their communication in any way. But I think in the future, if it became a bigger issue or if I ran into something that I noticed that they would need some help with, I've been told that you can go to somewhere like transitions, like a counselor, they can help connect you.
That's what I was going to mention. Like, my son was in speech therapy.
Okay.
When we had to be at least 3, I believe. I could be wrong. Don't quote me. But he started it at a young age because his sister's deaf.
Okay.
So not deaf, hard of hearing. So she didn't talk because she couldn't talk.
Right.
So therefore, he's not hearing how to talk.
Right. Yeah.
So we had to put him in speech therapy, and he still does it at school now. So.
Well, and now when I think about it, my son, when he was 3, so he started, both my kids only did 1 year preschool. They didn't qualify at age 3, and so they did 1 year at age 4.
Yeah.
But I had a daycare provider that was really worried about my son's speech because he just wouldn't talk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
same.
He would mostly make noises, like he would just point and be like, eh.
Yeah.
And so she was super concerned about him, and she got me connected with somebody who did an evaluation on him, and she was like, he's fine. Like, he talks when he wants to talk, and he does, like, he'll figure it out eventually. Just keep putting him in daycare and whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's fine now. Now he talks like me. He will talk all day long. He don't have an issue with talking, but so there's definitely ways to get connected with people outside of that, but it is a lot harder.
It is. It is like a whole waiting list. You have to meet certain qualifications. Even if you make too much, you won't qualify.
Yeah.
It's a whole jungle gym trying to get into.
Well, and just having that middle person there that has experience to be able to facilitate those connections is super helpful. And in homeschooling, you don't have that. You are the middleman.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's definitely a con, but there's ways around it. It just is, it's harder.
Yeah.
Is all it is.
So, being that it's already harder to have a middleman, was there mixed emotions from people outside of your inner circle? Be like, well, why are you doing homeschool? Why? You said earlier, they need a social life. Like, was there a lot of those haters, so to speak?
So maybe, but not to my face. I've always kind of done things my own way. Yeah, I've always kind of done what I want, and I think anybody that knows me knows that about me. Especially when it comes to my kids, like, I'm definitely open to advice.
Yeah.
But when it comes to criticism, if I feel that I'm doing what's best for my kids, because I don't make a decision for my kids without doing the research. Like, I'm not just willy-nilly out here parenting and making huge decisions that greatly affect my kids without consulting my kids and their father and doing research on it and making sure that it's best for them.
Yeah.
And so nobody really questioned me to my face. People definitely brought up the social aspects of it and just had concerns of like, hey, I've encountered homeschool kids in the past and these are things that I've noticed, and brought that to me that way. But no, nobody really had much to say about it. It was just kind of like, oh, Kristin's going to do what she's going to do.
Yeah.
Respect.
I think I've only ran into a few homeschool kids where it was like, oh, homeschool is not the route. But all the majority of the kids I've met that are homeschooled, like, in Jacksonville, when me and my brother would go to community park and play basketball, we met kids, and my brother didn't know who he was, so we asked him. He's like, "Oh, I'm homeschooled."
Yeah.
He was active, social, like no problem. Like he approached us, like, "Hey, you guys want to play ball?" Like, so it was kind of like I didn't see a difference.
That's how it is with my son. People are like, "Well, which school do you go to?" And he's like, I don't. I'm homeschooled. Yeah. And people don't even realize, like, we have to actively tell them. And my daughter's shy, but she's always been that way, even when she was in public school. But, I mean, if you got a snack, she'll talk to you. She'll become your best friend. Like, all it takes is some food for her.
For sure.
But my son, like, I mean, you've met him. He does not have any issues coming up to you and talking to you or hanging out in a group of people. And you would never know that my kids are homeschooled unless you ask them.
Yeah.
So
that's dope.
That's awesome.
So if someone was interested in taking this path, you know, you kind of were forced into the situation by how the public school mishandled.
Yeah.
For anyone going into this path, where do they start to even research or anything? Recommendations, I guess. So
my advice would definitely be to research by state, like what the guidelines are, because every area is different.
Right.
There's even some districts in Illinois that are a little stricter than ours. And so definitely just start with the legalities of it and just making sure that nobody wants to get arrested for doing what they think is best for their kids. So start there. And then
Wait, is that a thing? You can get arrested?
Yeah.
Yeah, truancy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And neglect and all sorts of things. Yeah. And so that was my first where I started. And then after that, I just looked up like what the requirements were for my kids' grades in Illinois. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of snowballed from there. But definitely just making sure that you're following the laws and the requirements of your area and your state, and seeing like just researching different curriculums, because what works for my kids may not work for somebody else's kid. Mm-hmm. Some kids may learn better sitting on a computer and learning their information that way. Some kids are going to do better with bookwork. Some kids are going to do better with a mix, which is kind of what I do. I try to have a mix of electronics and bookwork just to keep it interesting.
Switch it up.
Yep. And so I would look at what do you want it to look like for you, and what's the best way that your kids learn. Yeah. And then just Googling. Yeah. Googling. Use the internet. Yeah. Look up, do you want a dedicated room? Do you have that option? Is there an area that you can clear out space and dedicate to homeschooling and focusing on their learning? Is it something that you can mentally handle as a parent? Because I feel like that's super important.
Yeah.
Not everybody's built for this.
No. That's what I was going to say. Like, are there bad days at school? Like,
there's definitely rough days.
Mommy's tired. Like, skip school today. Like, type shit.
Skip school.
Yeah. So,
playing hooky.
Yeah, hey, spring break starts today.
I have migraines, chronic migraines, and I also have chronic dizziness, which we're trying to figure out where it stems from. And so there's definitely days that are rough for me, and there's days that are rough for them. They're just over it. Like, my son had a basketball tournament this week, and we come back Monday, and he's like, I don't want to do this. Like, we were gone all weekend. I was, doing all these sports things. My body's tired. My mind's tired. And there's rough days, but I've let him take days off. And there's times where I just take it slow. Like, okay, let's do a little bit of work, and then I'll let you have 10 minutes to just hang out, or let's do our schoolwork outside. Like this week, the weather's been beautiful. Yeah. And so we've been taking our lunches outside, and I feel like that gives them a little bit of a reset. Yeah. Where when it's time to come back inside and do school, they're not so like, about it. But also because I let them have so much control in how they, like, I don't make my kids sit at a table and do schoolwork. If my son wants to hang out in his bed, as long as the work's getting done and he's retaining the information, I don't care how you do it.
Yeah.
I respect that.
So that's definitely helped a lot. But we're going to have bad days just like anybody has bad days.
For sure.
And I just play it by ear.
Yeah.
So if they're having a bad day and I notice, we're doing the schoolwork, they're not retaining it because they don't feel good, or it's just too much, they're overwhelmed, or they're upset or whatever, we stop. We stop for the day, and I'll add it on to the next day.
How long is a school day?
So for us, it could take a shorter amount of time, or it could take a longer amount of time. It goes by the day. So sometimes it may only be a couple hours. Sometimes it can take from 9 o'clock to 2 o'clock. It depends on what kind of day they're having mentally. It depends on the amount of work I've allotted for that day. It depends on how they're retaining that information, if they have a lot of questions, or if I'm teaching it and they're not getting it, so I have to find a new way to teach them. It all depends on so many different factors. Normally we're done by noon, and we normally start around 9.
Okay.
So, but I'm also teaching 2 different grade levels at the same time.
Yeah.
And so it can get a little tricky, because sometimes I'll have to stop helping this kid to help this kid. Or sometimes I can just let them do it at the same time. It depends on the subject. It depends on what they're learning and how they're retaining it. So it definitely looks different day to day.
Awesome. Has there been any regrets since making this transition? Either for yourself or for the kids?
Not for me. And honestly, my kids, if they have it their way and I have it my way, really, we'll be doing this until they graduate. Yeah. They love it. They don't have any complaints. I try to check in with my kids every now and then, every couple of weeks, every couple of months, and just, how are we doing? How are we feeling about the homeschooling? Is there anything that you didn't really understand? Is there something I'm doing that you don't like? Is there something I'm doing that you really, really like that I need to do more of? They love it. They want to keep doing it. and I'm not just saying that because I'm here
Yeah.
doing this.
No,
Like,
no.
they will tell you we really enjoy homeschooling
Yeah.
and they like it and they don't want to quit doing it. So,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, it beats waking up at 8 and then being there all day.
yeah.
Especially on a snow day, you can just hop on a bed, go to school. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I did have a curiosity question, but it slipped my mind when I made that comment. So
Yeah, it happens to the best of us.
I guess I want to
I got a
ask.
quick question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you test? Like, we're going to make this is the test. Once we pass this test, we'll move on to the next level.
So I don't really do test. Like, as I teach a subject, as they're doing the papers or I'm asking them questions, I know as their parent, like, how they're retaining the information.
Yeah.
And so I don't really test them necessarily. I just get a feel based on how they're responding to the information, how they're filling out their worksheets. I can see if they're struggling or if they're not.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we just move on. And then at the end of each week, I try to do like a weekly review.
Mm.
And then based on that weekly review, if they'll normally tell me like, Mom, I don't really get this, or I need more of this, or we've done this so much, like I get it, can we move on? They're pretty vocal, and I really love that about my kids. They'll tell me like, okay, I get it, let's move on, or I don't understand what you're talking about, can we learn more about it?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I do that, but I just check their paperwork and I conversate with them, really.
Yeah. So I guess that kind of wraps it up. So
sure.
Is there like a PSA or a message you'd want to share to other parents or anyone that's curious and taking this route?
I think just don't doubt yourself. I think for me personally, I never thought that I would be the kind of mom that could do this and do it successfully. I compared myself a lot to other people. You know, I wouldn't consider myself super smart. I'm definitely educated, but I don't know everything. There's subjects and topics that I'm not super confident in. And financially, like, I don't come from this uppity place where I can dedicate an entire room and have all these nice things and latest gadgets. And I think just realizing if you really want to do this, just caring about your kids and finding a way, you can.
Yeah.
You can do this. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to even really have a college education. You just have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to grow. You have to be able to put your ego aside and learn along with your kids. And my kids know that. I don't know everything. Like, sometimes my kids will come to me and be like, hey, Mom, what does this mean? And I'm like, I don't know. Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
Let's find out together. And just putting that ego aside and being confident in that you won't know everything, but you can always learn.
Yeah.
And you can thrift and you can create these areas and these spaces that your kids will thrive in. I think really that's the basis of it all. Is I love my kids enough to learn.
That's so dope. Well,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thank you for coming to kick it with us.
Thank you for having me.
It was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it.
I learned a lot today. For
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So with that said, I'm James.
I'm Marcellus.
And this was a Kickback.
Peace.
Peace.